All right, welcome to podcast 16 of The Working Man. Got Hodgie again here today. He's having a snooze. We just went for a walk. I'm on holiday, so I still got the stubble. Don't have to shave every day, which is nice. When I go to work. Okay, what am I talking about today? This one's called "The Ground Is Not Your Friend: The Missing Financial Flight Manual." So I'm always trying to find analogies that can help us understand finances in our life and in the world more easily. Okay, and what I came up with is I'm talking about if you look at the article, and I might share my screen here so that you can see some of the images here. And what you'll see here is an analogy about aeroplane flight, the phases of your life, and your employment. So, for example, I start phase one, you see the plane taking off, and ages 18 to 28, you finish your high school education, you might go to uni, or you might start earning money somewhere around there. You're still learning all your life skills and life lessons. You've got the engines revving, maybe you get 2 or 3 jobs, and you're just trying to climb and get as much altitude as possible. And the analogy to the altitude is you're trying to grow your assets. Okay, you start earning superannuation retirement savings. You start to put together some cash. You might want to do that to travel. You might want to buy your first property sometime in the future. Maybe you're looking at settling down towards the end of that phase, around 28 to 30, in your early 30s. Then phase two, once you start to settle down. Now, this is the average person. This is not everyone, of course. I'm just going through what happens for most people. You get in your late 20s to early 30s, and then all the way up until you're in your 50s, you're climbing, right? You're on that steady climb. You start raising a family, your career starts to grow. You've got this long period of accumulation, steady ascent. You've got lots of other things happening too, families, kids. You start paying off debt, all sorts of things. And then phase three is when you're in your 50s and early 60s. You're in the cruise mode. You're not trying to climb and grow your assets too much more. Maybe you're putting in that last little bit of effort before retirement. Okay, you're adjusting your priorities. You can see potential retirement or slowing down the track. And then phase four, age late 60s onwards, the retirement phase. Whether or not you retire or not, that's not important. We're just talking about you start, gliding in then, and you start pulling money out of the assets. Okay, so that's the analogy. Talking about flight, talking about, if you're an aeroplane, you've got to try and get as much height as possible, as much assets as possible before you retire. That's the whole goal, is to get enough so that when other things come into your life, there's problems, there's issues, you've got enough assets that you can deal with them, including retirement when you may not have the income coming in. Okay, so most people treat their money like you're a pilot flying a plane. But unfortunately, you probably don't have any real idea initially how to fly a plane or what all those instruments in the cockpits mean. I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to show you a picture of a cockpit. I shouldn't have stopped sharing, but okay. So we've got the picture here of a basic aeroplane. 2 pilots, you can see joysticks on the left and the right. And if you look at that cockpit there, you think, holy crap, there's a lot of dials, gauges, instruments. And this is essentially what your financial life is like. When you're young, you get thrown in the deep end, you get a bank account, maybe you got someone teaching you a little bit there, but there's no real formal training. Now, you wouldn't try and fly a plane without any formal training, okay? And when you first initially jump into the cockpit of the aeroplane, so when you're 18 to 28 and you start your financial life, things are pretty simple. You might only have a few instruments and you might start to get off the ground. But then as your life, as you get a partner, probably on average, and then you start to have competing priorities. They bring their beliefs and systems into your financial world. Then there's lots of moving parts. It gets more and more complicated as you get older. And then you add kids or other things, businesses, and suddenly, man, you've got probably on average between 25, 30, and 40 moving parts. You've got costs and all sorts of things going everywhere. Okay, you've got loans and you've got offset accounts and you've got high interest savings account. You're trying to save for this and do this and move your money around. Now, here's the thing that I've figured out is that Frankenstein system, which is just get patched on and on, people keep adding more and more complications, more financial assets, growth, accounts, belief systems. That Frankenstein system is really, really inefficient. Okay, and that's what I've figured out. And obviously, I want to help people simplify this and find a lot of efficiencies in that area. You can go on and earn more money, okay, but I want you to find the efficiencies in the stuff that you've already got going on first to allow the plane to climb higher and higher, okay? If we don't have good information from that cockpit instrument panel, if we don't know how to read it, then when even minor decisions come up, and things are always changing in our financial world, when things come up and you've got to make a decision as to whether or not you can afford it or the best way to invest or save for it or whatever, then the decisions won't be as good a quality as they could be. And you just introduce another level of inefficiency to your financial world. So what my job is, I think, that using the system that I've found is to simplify, clarity, help people get clear about what they've got, what the projections might be, where they might be heading, and then simplify their world so that they're not too confused about all the different options that they've got. Okay. So I want the trajectory to be different. I want people to be able to see where they're going, what they've got, in very, very simple terms. It shouldn't have to be complicated. It ends up being complicated because no one teaches anyone how to run the plane properly. When you're taking off on an aeroplane and the wheels are down and the flaps are out and there's all these different settings that the engines are gunned full max power to take off, okay, until you get a bit of height, altitude. And then what happens is all the settings change. The wheels have to come up because otherwise there's too much drag. Okay, the wheels being out stops the plane going very fast and introduces a whole bunch of drag. So we need to get the wheels up. We need to get all the front flaps on the wings. If you've ever been on an airplane, you're looking out and you see the flaps start to retract as the plane gets higher and higher and the speed increases. They're trying to reduce the drag on the airplane. Okay, and then you can back off the engines a little bit as you get further and further into flight. So there's different settings that are required at different times of your financial life to get more efficient. There's no point using the same settings that when you're taking off and you've got the engines going and you're working 3 jobs and you're really trying to power along. Don't do the same thing when you're further along in your life. You can, that's up to you, but I'm going to tell you that that's a very inefficient way to run. So who helps people understand what the settings of their financial world should be as they progress through? I don't think there's many clear courses that you can do. You can probably do some financial counseling and financial courses, and it's just not pushed. And everyone has this kind of piecemeal, what I call the Frankenstein effect, a bit of this and a bit of this and a bit of this and this. But how do you know? How do you know everything's running at its most efficient, that all the flaps and the settings are in, if you can't read it all? Okay, if I talk to people and I say, what's your savings rate? How much do you save every pay, every year? What's as a percentage? Have you got a 10% savings rate, 15? They just look at me like, what are you talking about? If I say, what do you think your retirement savings are going to give you when you retire? Like, oh yeah, the superannuation company sends me something and it's got that on there. I said, is that going to be enough? Do you know what you're going to spend? Do you know what you spend every week and what it might be like in retirement? They're like, not really. I haven't had time. It's too complicated. I can't figure it out. screw that. Okay, there is a way, and it is relatively easy to do along the way if you follow this method that I think will help you significantly reduce that complication factor. Okay, so you're on a plane, you're flying. What have you got to do? You've got to avoid storms. You've got to avoid mountains. Okay, and that's why I say the ground is not your friend. As you're climbing, if you don't know your rate of climb, and if you don't know the altimeter, if you can't read those two basic instruments in your cockpit, then you're probably not going to be able to project where you're going to be. So how high you are and how fast you're climbing is going to tell you whether or not you can clear a mountain or a storm that might be in the future. Now, sometimes those storms are on the map and those mountains are on the map, okay? The mountain of retirement, when you want to pull the pin, turn the engines off and glide down the other side, it's known. It's known roughly where it is. And you can kind of calculate roughly the height. So if you're here and your rate of attack, your rate of climb is not high enough, then that's going to, if you know, then you can do something about it. A lot of people don't want to know. People are like, oh, it's going to be hard and I'm going to, stress about it and all the rest of it. But that's fine. Live that way if you want. But I like to know. I like to know, am I currently on track, or do I need to change my expectations? Maybe aim at a lower mountain, or am I well over, and maybe I can back off a little bit, okay? Until you do the sums and do some simple calculations. But no one teaches this. You just kind of have to, do I go onto my calculator website? I listen to Noel Whittaker or whatever, and it can be hard. But anyway, there's a simple way. What your altitude is, that's easy. How many assets do you have? What type of assets? Get a sheet of paper. I used to do it every 3 months, still do. Write down what my assets are. Okay, how much I own on the house, what my little liabilities are, the stuff I owe versus what I own. And you can just write a list of everything you own, everything. And on the first of every quarter, okay, just pick a date, start there, write it there. That's your altitude. Then your rate of climb. How much are you saving? And that's where the manila folder method comes in. Okay, what are you saving? What are you investing every fortnight to try and gain altitude, so that when the kids come along, the kids leave school and you want to help them buy a house, whether you want to help them get a car or not, whatever, I'm not here to tell you what you got to do with your money, or whether you're worried that potentially you might have a health issue down the track and you need to take some time off and you're not going to have income. That's the storm that you might approach. If you've got enough altitude, you can get over the storm and then it doesn't affect you anywhere near as much. Am I going to retire properly? All these things come into play, and I feel drawn to helping people because I've sorted it out in my own life in a very simple way. I think there's a benefit to this method of helping people figure out where they are, what their projections are, and where they can improve. And that's the manila folder method will help those two things are. Okay. So that's what most of my podcasts and writing has been about so far. I mean, we can move on to another phase, which is how to earn more. Okay. And I'll get to that. But I really feel drawn to the fact that most people don't sort out what they've got going on at the moment initially. Right. So essentially, this analogy is all about improving your savings rate, investing more. And I believe there's a way to find these inefficiencies. So keep spending the same amount, but find the savings and the inefficiencies in the settings of your aeroplane, okay, and redirect that towards saving and investing. I think that's the best method to start with. Get everything as efficient as possible, streamline the balance of the aircraft, the engines, the weight distribution, the flaps, all that stuff, learning about that. Right, so then we get to, I keep banging on about this manila folder method, simplifying, writing down all your fixed costs. All right, and once you've done that and you've worked out what every single thing costs you per pay, all right, so in Australia, that's fortnightly generally. Not other countries, it's monthly. then per year. And that's what we've got to bring every single cost that we have in our life back to. And we do the fixed costs first, the simple stuff, the insurance, the school fees, the mortgage, go down and down the list. Okay, rates, you know, streaming services, gym fees, whatever you can do. And that's where you're going to find most of those 25 to 40 costs are going to be there. Work out what it costs you every single payday. Okay, so we get with one amount at the bottom of the page. Okay, $1,800 has to come out of our account and go to a bills account to cover all that stuff. And then do it per year. Do another column. Okay, so if it's $10 a fortnight, that's $260 a year. Write it per year, because our brains only have so much processing power. We cannot understand something quarterly, something 6 monthly, something yearly, something fortnightly, something monthly, something weekly, and then have a really clear idea about what all that adds up to. It just doesn't work. I'm sorry. Unless you're some sort of savant, you can't have a really good idea at what all that stuff means when you come to making a decision about whether or not you can, afford something else, or you need to cut something back. You just can't. So work out one amount per pay and then amount per year. All right. Now you know what it costs you to live. Then you've got other things like food and entertainment stuff, and we deal with that next. So, but we start with the fixed costs. Everyone who's done that has come back to me and said, wow, they've either underestimated or haven't understood exactly how many costs that they've had in their lifestyle. Okay, it just can't. It just, for some reason, the brain can't add up that many. It's like a Dunbar's number thing. You only have so much space or time in your brain, bandwidth, if you like. Okay, so once we do that, I've got a very unique way to find the savings, these efficiencies. I've got a really innovative AI prompt that you'll find in the article on my Substack page. Just plug that into any AI, plug in where you live and what it is that you're trying to find. Say it's electricity, say it's mortgage, say it's anything. All those things, you just go through one after the other after the other. I've got plenty of examples of what I've found in our lives about how we found little savings here, bigger savings here, and then they all add up together. That gets put into an investment account and you start investing and you're on your way. Where to invest it? I'm not going to tell you where to invest it. I can tell you where I invest it. I can tell you what the general population does. However, just the biggest problem to overcome is having an understanding of where the savings are going to come from, your budget items, what you're being overcharged for, what you're not using, innovative ways to potentially save money. I'll go through it all in there. It's about living an intentional life, because a lot of people just throw their hands in the air and say it's too hard. But I'm telling you, one sheet of paper, a little bit of work, an hour, a couple of hours a week to start with, and then it gets into automatic pilot. Because here's the best thing. This setup that I'm showing you, the manila folder method, actually sets up an automatic recurring payment once you find a saving that will pay you forever. You find the saving or the inefficiency once and you get paid forever. It's been a bit of a shock, because I thought I was pretty good at budgeting, and then we started doing exactly this process in January 2025, so a little bit over 18 months. And I thought, I won't find many inefficiencies or savings here and there. Boy, was I wrong. I just kept chipping away and, didn't realize I didn't need that anymore. Or, hey, there's that special on that. Or, hey, we can put those things together. Or, I don't need that anymore. Or, that product has actually changed in the marketplace. Like our house insurance was really interesting, how we got a saving on that when I thought I had a really good deal, but there's some new innovations in the insurance, house insurance market that helped me get a higher market insuring amount. The house is insured for more, but at a much lower rate. And I was like, went through all the fine details of it and actually found it's more about the innovation of the product and was able to make a significant saving. I write about once we finished the list of this stuff, we move over to the stuff that's a little bit harder to quantify: food, entertainment, cars, holidays, and stuff like that. I've dealt with that time after time, and by no means am I an expert, but just by applying this AI prompt, this thing, it gives you a whole lot of ideas about how to get really good value for money, essentially the same living and lifestyle standard, but for much less money. And then we have to try and move what we save from what we would have spent into investments. And that's going to give you more altitude, right? We're trying to avoid the storms. We're trying to avoid the mountains that are coming. We know they're there. Sometimes they're on the map. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they'll just pop up. Our radar won't pick them up. And we need to know. So we need to do, this is like doing a pilot's course, essentially. I'm going to show you an easy way to look at that cockpit, that mishmash of prices and financial movements of money in your life, simplify it into one thing, know what to look at, when to look at it, and you'll get a much better outcome. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. Podgy says thanks. Toshi, he's outside, but yeah, let's fucking go. Yeah, this is good. All right, appreciate you all listening. Cheers.